Well, hello, my name is Rick Keevan. I first came to Warsaw in 1976 looking for a job, and that was at DePuy. I spent a career there in engineering and law, and I'm now retired. Shortly after I moved here, a couple of years after I thought I was going to be single forever, I married a local girl, and we had a son, Dave, and that is how I came to be involved in Second Mile. My son went to the ski trips a couple times. One time I went along with him. And so I enjoyed that trip, and then some time passed, and then I retired. And then some things happened in my life where I had to set new goals for my life. And I found myself becoming interested in youth, particularly. Became involved in the jail ministry team. I quickly found out that when youth get into jail, it's a long haul back, and it's hard to change anything once a kid is in the system and he's that far down the road. And so helping youth prior to that time became something of a issue for me. So I thought back to my experience with Second Mile Adventures and that ski trip. One, I liked the idea of just going skiing. It just sounded like a great idea, but couple that with the youth ministry that trip focuses around, and that's what got me started. And that was in 2004, spring of 2004, and I now go every year. Not only is the skiing fun, but the program does a great job of youth ministry in the evening, developing friendships, interaction with adults, positive image adults, and it just is a blessing to me, maybe more so than the kids, to see young men and women getting positive inputs into their life. And I actually kind of need that, because I become somewhat cynical as I work with the young men and women in the jail. It is hard not to become jaded and think, oh my gosh, we're in trouble. But then when you see these young men and women in the Second Mile Adventure programs, you think, okay, we're going to be all right. We got to do some work here, but we're going to be all right. So that's huge for me, and I'll probably do this till the day I die. I had a period in life where I had some real extreme problems with anxiety and depression, and it changed my whole attitude about life. I'm sorry to say that I think the better part of my life was spent about me and what I wanted, not about God and what He wanted. And as I came out of that anxiety and depression, I had an epiphany where I thought, really it ought to be about God and what He wants, not about me and what I want. These young men all have a story, even at that age. Some of them are broken families and whatnot. Even the ones that aren't, just being a teenager is tough these days. There's a lot of challenges out there, and standing up to them, particularly fearlessly, is not easy. So I talk about who I am. I always start out the first session, this is who I am, this is my story, this is the good, the bad, and the ugly. And then I encourage them to do the same thing over the following evening. So we all get to be pretty tight. We know each other, the good, the bad, and the ugly by the end of the week. It's interesting how people are lonely and they just want a connection. And so if you're willing to open yourself up and really connect at a human level, it becomes really easy to get close to people, because people are starving for that, particularly with the broken family situation today, where there's just so much shallowness and disruptiveness, and the nurturing is just not there for so many of these kids. And so they're just kind of hanging on. And I can tell the ones that are hanging on, because I've been there, I know what it's like. We start crying. The world hasn't changed that much. There's still the same problems, the same number of people, even more so. In fact, in the jail, it's a 302-man bed. We are exceeding that. For heaven's sakes, we're up to like 380 at one time. There's people sleeping all over the place. What is wrong with us? And I think back to when they first opened that jail back in 1981. They brought 13 people over from the old museum jail over to this jail, and in that time, it has just exploded. And so out there, between broken families, drugs and alcohol, and all the other things that people are doing to try and find answers, I think God is teaching me, Rick, this is Satan's world. You're gonna have to remember that. You've got a job, you gotta stick with it, and you may or may not always get all the results you want, but that's not your problem. Your problem is just be faithful, and that's all you can do. People are lonely in this world, and the adults, kids, you name it. There's just such a disconnect between a real interconnection with people and these superficial relationships that kind of dominate our society. And so I'm hoping and seeing that Second Mile is helping fill that void, because that's really their purpose, is to really connect with people On a spiritual level, which is the deepest level you'll ever have with someone, when you can talk to someone one-on-one about spiritual matters, there is no better connection than that. I want people to experience that the way I'm experiencing this, to know what those relationships are like. When you have a God-centered life, you're around other people who are God-centered, and to see what a joy there is in this life and what a joy life can be under those circumstances, even with all the trials and tribulations around us. It's something you'll never forget. And again, until you've tried it, you don't know what you're missing.